What's going on, everybody? This is Ray Hayes coming to you again with the mini podcast. Definitely want to encourage you all to follow us on Twitter at GDN Network. Follow us on Facebook at Supplier T News. If you're interested in learning more about all the news going on in the small business world, as far as diversity in tech, diversity in all parts of society and across the globe, please visit our website and check out our weekly articles. Our daily articles at www.suppliertnews.com. Today, I'm coming to you all again with another mini podcast. Nothing too long, not too short. But like I said, come to you all again with a weekly podcast, mini podcast. Last week, President Donald Trump signed a religious executive order. The order was definitely it caused a little bit of uproar in the religious community. Was somewhat like a campaign speech, but it wasn't a campaign speech. But Trump had went on during a press speech, stated that he promised to destroy the Johnson Amendment. Yes, if anybody is unfamiliar with the Johnson Amendment, the amendment prohibits the right to. Well, people believe the amendment prohibits the right to religious organizations to speak, to have a freedom of speech. It somewhat does to a degree. The Johnson Amendment prevents churches and religious organizations from endorsing political candidates, which is understandable because you don't want to put too much politics in the church, and it could possibly cause churches to accept money from political candidates under doors, and they're going in endorsing a certain candidate. So you had some religious figures saying that, but then you had some religious figures going about saying it's the idea of religious liberty. Churches should have the right to voice their opinions or let their congregations know about who would be the rightful candidate for their city or state, and which is understandable. You already have that now in some churches. You have pastors going up there, having a candidate come in and speak to the congregation, and not fully endorsing them because they knew there would be some legations as far as them endorsing them, but they would have the candidates come in and speak to the church. But now, since President Trump signed the new executive order, there not going to be any penalties. He advised the IRS to not basically overlook it to a certain degree. The actual executive order is a little bit vague. However, like I said, it does give religious organizations the right to basically endorse political candidates with the least amount of punishment. Well, basically asking the IRS to overlook that punishment. Now, churches are tax exempt. Some people were saying if you're going to allow churches to go about endorsing political candidates, they should lose their tax exemption. I kind of disagree with that. I mean, right. I understand the fact that this could be lead to a downslope because churches can, like I said, go about accepting money from these political candidates, and who knows what can happen. But it can lead to something ugly, possibly. However, like I said, it's already going on in the church now. In some churches now, where candidates are coming in and speaking. When you talk about religious liberty, if churches can't go about voicing their concerns about, okay, we're thinking about endorsing him, that does limit your right to the idea of a freedom of speech. It does. But I somewhat agree that we can't play too much politics in the church, because, like I said before, it's going to lead to a lot of lobbying in the churches. Pastors taking money from these political candidates, or taking money from their friends of the political candidates. So it's going to throw in a loophole, and somebody is going to find a way to take full advantage of that loophole. I mean, but it gives a new way for people to campaign. It's definitely a new way for people to campaign, and I would definitely see how this is going to work during the 2018 elections and the 2020 presidential election. I definitely would be interested to see how this would work. President Trump, during his campaign, did state that he was going to fight for religious liberty, and this is the first step towards doing it. However, there still needs to be some concrete details in regards to this executive order. Like I said, the executive order is somewhat vague. It doesn't give you the full logistics of what the fact, what should we not look at, or what the IRS should not be looking at. But, I mean, like I said, he campaigned during his speech that he said he was going to do this. There were basically four primary sections of the executive order. The Hill.com pointed out. First, it includes a broad language declaring that the policy of the executive branch is to vigorously enforce federal law's robust protections for religious freedom. Second, the order instructs IRS officials to protect the freedom of churches and houses of worship to speak about moral and political issues from a religious perspective. Like I said, he basically asked the IRS to step in and protect the religious rights. I mean, religious organizations' rights in regards to speaking openly and freely about political issues. Thirdly, the order directs federal officials, including the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, to consider issuing amended regulations that will protect nonprofit groups with faith-based objections to provide abortion pills and their insurance coverage. It doesn't go in full detail about that, but in the coming weeks or coming months, we'll definitely, there'll be more in regards to how is that going to work and how the Department of Health and Human Services plan on following President Trump's order. And lastly, the order tells the Attorney General to issue guidance interpreting religious liberty protections in federal law. Once again, this doesn't provide basically a concrete. The Hill said it best: a concrete safeguard for people of faith. It doesn't. There was some talk about the earlier version of the order. People were saying it was discriminative against people of the LGBT community, but thank God that didn't go through. So, I mean, we didn't need any more of the backlash of that or discrimination against the LGBT community. It wouldn't be necessary. So thank God that's not included in this order. But like I said, it's good to see that he's following through with his campaign. Like he did tout that he's going to fight for and defend religious liberty. And President Trump, like I said, he's living up to what he said he's going to do. So I definitely applaud him for that. However, I would just like to see more concrete details about this order and how this order, how we can go about enforcing this order. How is it going to work? How are we going to get rid of the loopholes as far as how we're going to stop people from accepting money under the door or lobbying within the churches. So, but once again, thank you all for listening to the mini podcast. You can follow us on our social media outlets. Facebook, you can follow us at Supplierty News or like our page. Follow us on Twitter at GDN Network. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit www.suppliertynews.com and click the Contact Us tab. You can either contact us via email or you can leave a comment on our social media pages. Once again, I want to thank you all for listening to the podcast. My name is Ray Hayes, and I hope you all have a good week.